countless documented quotes, and we're going to go over some of them here in a moment with Aaron, with the head of the vaccine program of the Army, with the government developing the Spanish flu, talking about exterminating humanity, killing the individual. There are literally thousands of these quotes, all public, and that's why Dr. Pianka, one poster boy we're going to read quotes from here in a minute, from the speech he gave with a standing ovation with the Texas Academy of Sciences, where he's talking about eradicating the population, and they're all crying. It's like such a sick power trip. This is their religion. You're not given the PhD. You're not advanced. You don't get the book deals. You don't get the grants unless you're one of these people. And they've got the majority of them now. And they are, most of them, very unintelligent, very addled, but they are people that are into humans being trash and garbage. Because I guess they look at the rest of the world through their own eyes of what they think of themselves, what they are. But don't speak for us, pal. We're not garbage, okay? Incredible species that gave us Beethoven and the space program and all the science and the beauty. You just keep your hands off our humanity. If humanity's so bad, kill yourself. Keep your hands off us. And Pianka about bisphenol A and how cutesy it all is. See, they all just do this and see us as a bunch of sheep and think it's funny. So, the feds don't want this weaponized bird flu that they hired universities to create, talking about it. But they also don't want you talking about how they're doing these in level 2 labs. I mean, a level 2 lab is just to swipe a card to go into an area. And they supposedly wear gloves and masks. Oh, that's really wonderful. So it's this beyond laissez-faire attitude. It's your tax money paying for all of it. And here are some of the reports, and they're saying an engineered doomsday. That's what they're doing. Our government, our criminal government, has spent more than all other governments combined on military to protect America. In quotes. They say they've done all of this. They've spent more on underground bases. That's on the congressional record, but then everything about the bases is secret. Switzerland, for a tiny amount compared to it, has underground bases with a 2-year food supply, water, power, grenade launchers, machine guns for their entire population. They have armored redoubts for nothing compared to what our government spent per citizen. And they've all got underground bases for nuclear war, everything. Everything. Our government has spent more per capita than any other country, and other countries combined. And I grew up in Dallas, and it's still there. You go in those underground parking garages, it'll say nuclear fallout zone. You're supposed to go in there with your family and sit there while you all die of radiation poisoning, and the globalists come dig your skeletons out later if they feel like it. Or they just say those are the catacombs. This is what national security is. Evil took America over. It got us to accept giving up our liberties to fight the commie evil or the Muslim extremist evil. All these things they protected and fostered and used. And they've got all these articles about, thank goodness the feds are stopping, the publishing of how to make super death. Oh, it'll kill 90+% of you. Oh, it's airborne. Oh. Meanwhile, you go research everybody involved to head up each one of these universities and government. This is the stuff you're being told about. Are all wild eugenicists. You just type in the scientist's name and you'll get wild quotes after it, how they want to kill everybody and how bad everybody is down the line. Again, these people go give speeches to their colleagues, and the more you talk about killing people, they're standing ovations. Oh. This is what they do. My dad, top of his class in high school. By the time he was a junior. Part of a federal program. Taken to UT. Given test. The top of those people. Brought in. Told it's eugenics. You're going to be part of the elite. And he was like, no thanks. It's not that my dad was even that special. It's standard. That's why you get up in front of a group of them and say, we're going to kill everybody. And they're like, yes, kill everyone. Oh. Okay, but this is who they are. I know it's crazy. They're crazy. And when you study it, I mean, Aaron's been here now almost 6 years. And I'm like, look into eugenics, look into it. And he's one of our specialists here in it. The problem is it's endless. You can never find it all. It never ends. The books they publish, the sickening statements, everything they've said and done. And what they do is they stage the physical terror attacks. They hype up SARS and bird flu, things that are no big deal. because the actual treatment is what is altering your immune system, altering your DNA, that has the carrier viruses and other things in it to manipulate you and to lower your immunity. That's all admitted. And so their plan, and this is covered in Endgame, with the quotes and documents, is to get a world government in place, lock down all of society, and then release progressively worse bioattacks that they pose as the saviors against. Terrorists, because they know medical tyrannies, that's how Hitler started. He was just one of their little spinoffs who was going after one group. They're like, no, we go after everybody. In fact, that's the speech my dad was giving. It was, Hitler was wrong the way he did eugenics. We're applying it across the board. And most people are told, you're top of your class, you want to join us? Most people go, oh, yes. I mean, these are some sick freaks. And again, I didn't even know about this with my dad until my mother came over one day to the office on like a Saturday or Sunday. It was a ballet recital for my daughter, who was like 3 or 4 years old at the time. I was still at the office finishing Endgame. My mother watched about 30 minutes of it, and she's like, this can't be true. And driving in the car, my dad, then relayed the story of what happened to him. But you don't have to believe that. Go look at all the quotes and find out this is the religion. This is the cult. This is why they think of you as sheep, as cockroaches, because they're the ascendant humans. You're the trash that has to be killed. So they poison your food, your water, your culture to make you what they already say you are in a self-fulfilling prophecy. Because they're stunted, and you run into these globalists. I mean, they're really like crazy and weird, and their minions are always real stupid but think they're real smart. And up top, they're pretty darn smart, but they're also devoid of something. It's very machine-like. And it's the oldest form of war to take over and to actually just get rid of your opposition. It's called genocide. Now, Aaron, you've got big stacks of these quotes here, and we've gone over some of this mousepox news. But here's another one out of the National Post. Creating a super contagious mutant version of bird flu may have been a bad idea. World Health Organization warns. The group sworn to determination. Here's another one. Avian influenza report. Going over all of it. Influenza, a virus subtype of H5N1. Project BioShield. Authorities, appropriations, acquisitions, and issues for Congress. Frank Gordon. They passed it in 2002. This is the new one, 2011. Billions more. Not for biodefense, but to create the stuff they put in your vaccines. All of it, slow kill. So 20, 30 years down the road. But now that's not enough for them. They've just been testing quietly and enjoying the pain and the cancer rates exploding. And because when you read their quotes, folks, it is the one thing binds them together. The frothing, demonically energized hatred of humanity. They love the kids with their hair falling out and dying. They see them as roaches. And I mean, they love it. When you have to fathom their this gibbering wickedness. I mean, it is something to behold. And the crying, the holy rolling in death. I mean, it's just, you can go to these events, you can read news articles about them, just the crying and they just publicly proclaim their hatred of humanity. Aaron Dykes, you've got quotes. Go over it for people. Break down what I'm telling them here. Am I exaggerating in any way?
Not at all. This stuff is horrifying. Take all the stuff you heard about eco-science. Holdren and Ehrlich came up with nothing. They regurgitated and carried the water for the quotes, and they summarized.
This is 150 years old.
Population planning stuff. They all said
they discovered DNA to kill us. They created computers to track us. It is their religion. Sorry.
Okay, take a simple quote from a true tyrant. He wasn't into eugenics, or at least directly associated with it. He was definitely into mass culling. Joseph Stalin. Death is the solution to all problems. No man, no problem. Now let's compare that to the quotes of the eugenicists. The Club of Rome, in their 1991 First Global Revolution book, said mankind is the enemy. They have a whole chapter about finding an external enemy to fight the environmental crisis, prop all that up, and blame mankind.
Club of Rome? We're going to have all this written as a big article with video, with links to all of it.
Here's a long quote, but it's important. Lord Bertrand Russell, he wrote The Impact of Science on Society, and the
Nobel Prize winner.
Yeah, and it's all about this culling. I do not pretend birth control is the only way in which population can be kept from increasing. There are others which one must suppose opponents of birth control would prefer. War, as I remarked a moment ago, has hitherto been disappointing, but perhaps bacteriological war may prove more effective. If a Black Death could be spread through the world once in every generation, survivors could procreate freely without making the world too full. There would be nothing in this to offend the consciences of the devout or to restrain the ambitions of the nationalists. Their state of affairs that might be somewhat unpleasant, but what of it? Really high-minded.
And if you look them all up, they all want, go back and finish it, they all want world government, they all want one world state, and then they tell us like we're sheep that doesn't exist. Finish the end part. Really high-minded people know we need to kill. Go ahead.
Bertrand Russell has one of the highest IQs in history.
Oh, he's so smart, but let's just read how high-minded people want to kill him.
Really high-minded people are indifferent to happiness, especially other people's. Then you've got Prince Philip. He's got a couple of these quotes. Here's one of them. If I were reincarnated, I would wish to be returned to Earth as a killer virus to lower human population levels.
And again, these are all bibliographs, Reuters, you name it. Continue.
He was the founder of the World Wildlife Fund on top of everything else. Dave Foreman, Sierra Club and founder of Earth First. I believe the human overpopulation is the fundamental problem on Earth today. We humans have become a disease, the human pox. He goes on in a separate quote. The AIDS epidemic, rather than being a scourge, is a welcome development. It is the inevitable reduction of human population. If it didn't exist, radical environmentalists would have to invent it.
Which it was invented, and we have all the documents on that. But the issue here is, again, you industrialize, you educate people, this wouldn't even happen. You find out in the Royal Commission, they actually wanted population to be high and then later cull it to actually keep control of the third world countries and not allow development. And really they're just a bunch of sick shadists. And all these dumb yuppies say, well, there are too many people when they see these facts. Listen, moron, they put it in your food too. You know, your mommy, your daddy, your son or daughter is going to die from this. Remember, you sickos, you're not part of the winning team. So don't imagine you are. Continue.
It's victimology, Alex. They like it.
Yeah, keep going.
Yeah. Here's one from Sir Thomas Malthus. He was the head of the Royal Society in the 1600s, or 1700s rather. Instead of recommending cleanliness to the poor, we should encourage contrary habits. In our towns, we should make the streets narrower, crowd more people into the houses, and court the return of the plague. He was the inspiration for the whole eugenics movement, properly named.
They even said spread diseases, which they were already doing, actually.
There's other quotes.
We have weapons manuals.
I was in a hurry. Here is one from Barbara Marx Hubbard. She was a vice presidential candidate in '84. She didn't become the vice presidential nominee, but
she's one of the top New Agers.
Yeah. This is a long quote, too, but tell me how bad this is. 1/4 is destructive, defective, who must be eliminated from the social body. Fortunately, you are not responsible for this act. We are. We are in charge of God's selection process for death. We come to bring death. The riders of the pale horse are about to pass among you, grim reapers. They will separate the wheat from the chaff. This is the most painful period in the history of humanity. In the past, they were permitted to die a natural death. We are in charge of God's selection process for planet Earth. He selects, we destroy. We are the riders of the pale horse, death.
That's Pentagon Fort Bragg training manual.
Yeah.
In fact, read the quote. That's from the Earth Battalion.
Says Task Delta Force psychologist Barbara Marx Hubbard, supported by Rockefeller.
Yeah, but we actually have the manual on that. That's actually was taught to special forces.
And it's in a popular book.
Yeah, but as you said, Delta Forces taught that. Okay, let's continue.
Yeah, she goes on to say, we come to bring death to those who are unable to know God. The riders of the pale horse are about to pass among you. Grim reap. Well, I guess it's kind of repeated there.
Yeah.
Anyway.
But in the manual, they just say that kill whoever we say, it's of Gaia.
Then you've got the Project for a New American Century, Rebuilding America's Defenses. That was the neocon group just before the Bush administration. Part of their document talks about advanced forms of biological warfare that could target specific genotypes, may transform biological warfare into the realm of terror to a politically useful tool. Then you've got this guy, Dr. Paul Popenow. And you got to understand, this guy was an extreme eugenicist in the early 20s. He couldn't be associated with the normal eugenicists. He was covertly funded by the Rockefellers and the other money houses supporting the eugenics. He was marginalized, but he was still a hero to them. You have to understand that. From he was also an Army venereal disease specialist during World War I, and he wrote the textbook Applied Eugenics. From a historical point of view, the first method which it presents itself is execution. Its value in keeping the standard of the race should not be underestimated. Then Applied Eugenics goes on to devote a chapter to lethal selection, wherein part of the quote says, through the destruction of the individual by some adverse feature of the environment, such as excessive cold or bacteria, or by bodily deficiency.